This is a different setup. Now you guys are like, what the heck is going on? So they don't want to overload the plane with my equipment. What the bare necessities. Always come prepared. Got my microphone, got my stand, got my laptop. Look, podcast, no matter where you go, no excuses at all, right? This is already planned anyway. I mean, I already planned doing this. So I'm happy to do this from the West Coast. Actually, I was talking to Dwayne and Steven from the Lunch and Munch meetup. Go check out their episode number 14. Fire episode. That was the longest episode that was recorded. And it was just, oh my gosh. Anytime you all three of us get together, the conversation keeps going, going, and going. And, they talk about fatherhood and how to be, just emotionally available, being vulnerable, admitting to the mistakes, showing their children how to become strong leaders through leading and helping their siblings, all of that in episode 14. And just, it was really heavy. Like, you guys make sure when you're about to watch it, you take notes and reach out, if you're fathers and you need that guidance, that support, reach out to the Lunch and Munch meetup. Episode 14, all the information is in there. They provide a great community for fathers. But with that being said, today we are going to talk about correcting the past for a brighter future. And this is in regards to helping mothers heal themselves to help heal their daughters. You know what they say, the bigger the bag, the more books it holds. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can still get the same amount of books plus more if you download the app Audible right onto your phone. You'll get these books plus millions of titles that is available to you straight on your smartphone. So go ahead, click the link in the description box, sign up for a 2-month free trial, cancel anytime. But don't forget, once you become a member, you get 1 free credit every single month. So you can choose any title to any author, whoever you choose to get, and it's free because you're a valuable member. Now let's get back into the episode. Helping mothers to find their own self-love, their own self-courage, their confidence within themselves so they can correct that within their daughters, because a lot of that comes from just what we know and what we've been taught by the women in our lives growing up, our mothers, our aunts, our grandmothers, older cousins, other females that were in our lives, right? We look at them and we mimic them. Or, we may envy them, or we want to be like them when we grow up. But sometimes we see that, but we don't know how to do that, right? Growing up like in the 90s and just not knowing, for me, I'll use myself as an example. Some of you may relate. At that time, there was like the different girl groups and obviously, publicity to have people behind them, right? But to be a strong woman is not about, what you see on TV, you're dancing and you're wearing like the fly outfits, but it's also what's in here. And so a lot of that, if it's not really taught the correct way of how you should act, how you should think, but it's a foundation, primarily, how you think, how you act. And it is something that, it carries with you from the time you're very small, because you're always watching the adults around you, right? Um, you listen to the conversations, you're watching what they wear, you're looking at the people that they hang out with, you're looking at their life choices. So all of that carries into your adulthood. It carries into your mature later stages in life. And so when I talk about, correcting the past for a brighter future, that's ultimately saying, as a mother or a father, if you're watching this, that it is not too late to change what is going on in your life right now, to change the relationship with your children. And this is in light of my own upbringing, obviously, right? It's always about me. Somehow always make about me, right? I know it's a topic that I've thought about previously and wrote down and wanted to speak on, because my daughter, she's now 16 years old, and I wanted to make sure it was a very special 16th birthday for her, opposed to the one I had. And like the one I had was not the one that I thought it would be, the outcome where you would see back in the day, I was back in the day, like in the 90s, where you grow up and you have all these TV shows and they have like these sweet 16 birthday parties with the gown and the tiara and, hundreds of friends and family and, this nice extravagant place. That was my world. So it's like you pop the bubble, right? And then, reality sets in. It's like, okay, small turnout, it wasn't how I envisioned it. The dress was a no anyway, because I wasn't into dresses at that time. I was like more of a tomboy back then. So I had like a nice suit, with the yeah. I was a businesswoman in the making. Yeah, I had oh my God, I love it. It was a jacket, the pants to match, and I had my white shirt. Yeah, you think I was like a freaking corporate executive at 16. Don't ask me where I get this from. But that was my outfit. With that being said, I did not want my daughter to have a similar experience, or like, what you did for your birthday. It's like, I did XYZ, it wasn't like rememberable. And so for her, I wanted to make it rememberable. What did you do for your birthday? It's like, I went zip lining, I went to go in a submarine. I got to see a dead deer carcass, which we did. Stuff like that. Memorable. It all has a lot to do with the parent, within of how what they went through as a child, right? And the things that you experience at that stage in your life, or stages in your life, whether it's, childhood, adolescence, or a young adult. There's a different stages of that in your life where, you may not have a healthy relationship with your parental figures. And for those of you who are new to the channel, when I mean by parental figures, that's because not everyone grows up in a household with two parents, right? Either they grew up with their mother and father, the mother or father. They may grow up with their aunt, the uncle, the grandparent or parents. They might grow up with the cousins. They may grow up in, with their stepmother or stepfather. So everyone's household makeup, it's different. So I always like to say parental figures, just to generalize it. And so when you are, growing up with these parental figures in your household, in the household, not each of them or different, you get different, obviously personalities. Everyone may have grown up differently. So you get bits and pieces of how they grew up, and it's going to be passed on to you. And in the episode I mentioned with Dwayne and Stevens, episode 14, we went through how our parents' way of disciplining a child is through spankings with either, flip flops or shoes or, belt or a switch, lasso. I don't know. Getting creative here, but you know what I'm talking about, right? For those of you who are 40 and up, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So, some form of, physical punishments that we have experienced growing up. And so we talk about, how do we raise our children to not do that? How do we express our feelings towards them? How do we express and communicate what we are feeling without getting physical or verbal um, towards them? And this is something that is so important because I realize that, when you do communicate, not just with in general, and communication, this is not, yes, with your children, but in overall, this communication with anyone that you come in contact, even a stranger, communicating what you want, what you desire, what you will or will not tolerate. And throughout most of my podcasts, that's like one of the biggest things that I am a bit advocate for, because it was something that I was never taught how to do, right? I was never shown the proper way of communicating. For me, I was the opposite. So if something was wrong, I wouldn't say anything. And so, when I talk about, going back to the topic of righting the wrongs for a brighter future, so you want to teach your children how to communicate effectively, because one, it allows them to be great leaders. Two, it allows them to not just like get the point across, but to be heard. Because when I'm sure you experienced this, where you feel like when you are heard and your feelings, your wants, your needs are heard, it is acknowledged, it's taken to account of what is going on. It's a whole different feeling of being ignored. And I'm sure some of you that's watching this knows what it feels like to be ignored. You feel like that you're not worthy. You feel like that you are, you're not part of the team. You are a nobody. And so if you know that you have felt like that in the past, or if you feel like that now, imagine your own children, how they feel when they receive that, from someone, a teacher, their own parental figures, their friends, people in their community. And so instead of them feeling like they cannot express themselves to say, I feel hurt, I am not happy, I feel sad, I don't like what I'm feeling right now, I'm confused. Like all of these things is part of communication. And so when we talk about, again, correcting our mistakes, so as you are watching this, you have most likely started your journey as far as your own personal development, as far as you working on yourself and on these skills that, that is vital for you to grow. And once you have mastered all of that, and not even like mastered all the way fully, but you master the basic steps, and then you just keep working on yourself in those areas, and you keep building and building and building. And so, it's when you have got to a certain point, you're like, okay, I can teach this. I can show my children from where I've learned from the beginning, point A, all the way to point F, of the way to communicate, the way to express themselves without having me, or when I say me, meaning you, we're having you to ash out or to say something that's not in a respectful manner. Because, yes, even though there are children and they are under our care until they leave the house, and sometimes beyond, after they leave the house, you still have some kind of form of responsibility. They may need something, right? But there are individuals, they are human beings, and they should receive respect. That's like you demand respect from other people, um, from within your family, in your house, in your household, in your workplace, in your community, in your environment. It's the same thing that you are teaching them, that you are respectful of them as well, and that's what they will pick up on, and that's what they will take with them wherever they go. Because if they don't receive that respect from you, how are they going to, one, give that respect back to you? How are they going to give that respect to someone else? So with everything that you're doing, if you don't like do like the basics, things like that, then it's like, you're painting a wall, right? Painting a wall, and you want to paint a wall. The first thing you need to do is what? Prime it. If you don't prime the wall and you just go ahead and just slap some paint on there, what's going to happen? You're going to see all the imperfections. All it's not, you're going to see it's not going to come out as nice as you have seen it in a magazine, right? Or a TV show, whatever it is. So you have to prime. So priming, communication, showing respect, showing self-love, having confidence, self-worth, all these things, all that I talk about on this podcast and even in my coaching, it's all the basic foundations when you're not just, for when you're growing yourself into personal development, but also you're teaching your children the same exact thing. You are priming them for what's going on out there in the world before they leave the nest. And if they already left the nest, um, it's still not too late to teach and show them, because no, until we pass away, we're no longer on this earth. Well, alive, to say, alive on this earth. You are we should be in a constant cycle of learning. You should be in a constant, I need to know more. I need to know more. You go through your cycles of learning your ABCs. Next is your addition, your subtraction, your division, your multiplication. Then you go into equations and geometry and calculus or whatever it is, right? There's different levels. So you're always in a cycle of learning. And, again, you can be 80 years old watching this. You still going to learn something that you may not have learned, from growing up or just living life. Some people stop learning. And once you do that, you close yourself off. And so it's just like so important to just really think about the things that happened to you in your past, to think about the things that you wish that you had, that you can provide to the newer generation, to your children, to, if you don't have children, to your younger nieces or nephews, to your younger cousins, show them that it's a different way of living. There's a better way of living. And, this could be through simple experiences. It doesn't have to be anything extravagant, but you're opening their eyes to what could be, what is more. And, just because maybe you didn't get that chance and you really want to, you know, have give that guidance and support and be a role model or a mentor, just for doing something, I like to say, you know, good deeds for the day. I love that because, it's like, or I'll say, what is the other word terminology I like to use is community service, right? Which is like good deeds of the day. So when you think about, being a service to your community, right? And, if you don't have any young people in your life, there's always different organizations, different, communities. There are schools. There are so many ways that you can give your time, and and I say time meaning, like a passion project, something you get involved in, and you're just there, just sharing stories, little things like that, because your story. And I realize, and the more and more I do these podcasts, or I do my reels on Instagram, or little things you may see, it's coming from the heart, because again, this is something that I was never shown. I was never told. Um, or it may have been at a later part of my life where I just didn't know. And so, this is my way of showing, mothers, fathers, that it's not too late to course correct, right? Because when you do a course correction in your life, you work on yourself, you work on your children, then their children went, so basically you're shortening the time frame. So you may have, 15, 20, 30 years of just things that's not going right between you guys. And then you work on yourself, and then you work with them to help them work on themselves to heal their trauma, right? And then when it's time for them to have their own children, then that time frame is much shorter. And then when you're and so when they have your grandchildren and your great grands, it's going to be even much shorter. And so it's, that generational curse, you know whatever it is that it is for you, if it's, a form of, abuse, financial, this could be mentally, the way you think, your limiting beliefs, the lack of confidence, being a people pleaser. There's so many forms of generational curses. Once you just identify and acknowledge that that has happened, and you accept it, you get to forgiveness. And this is something I talked about before. You do forgiveness, not to say I forgive you for the way you acted, but I forgive you for you may not knowing, or I forgive myself for not knowing at the time, right? It can go both ways. So once you lift that burden that you've been carrying for so long, that weight will literally lift. And I can say that because this is something that I have experienced myself, where I forgave someone, a previous boss that we just didn't get along for 4 years. And before I left, I just, wrote a letter and said, I forgive you. I, thank you for being you. And like literally, that was the first time that I had that weight lifted off my shoulders. And so this is the same thing that we have to do within, you know, the future generation that's going to be the leaders. When we're older, who are we going to trust to lead us, right? Just generation that we are in right now. The out of the millennials, the Y, the Z's, I'm not sure where we are now. I think we're double A's. But they're the ones who are going to make that huge change, that huge shift, because we are making sure that we are fixing ourselves so they can have, yes, one, a better future, and then the future that they are going to lead is going to continue on and be better. And so this is what we all have to concentrate on, and to just work together. I mean, that's the ultimate goal. It's, I know it sounds like a kumbaya thing, but I talked about this before, that I did not realize what the term "it takes a village to raise a child" when I was younger. I was just like, no, it doesn't. It just takes parents. And I honestly know what it means. So, in talking to like other parents, independent and couples, it's a parent, and that's not like a play on words. It's a parent that we all play a part in, a small part in our child's life. A huge part, yes, but we also play a part. It's not just us, but it's other people that we put them in, in those environments that we surround them with. And that's a huge, huge thing. And, for me, I was exposed to a lot of different ethnicities growing up, and different places, and I got to travel. And, I was fortunate. And so with my, my own daughter at her young age, and I want her to have those experiences, but even better. So this is what I, doing, making sure that when she has her own children, if she decides to, that she's like, okay, my mom is for me. I'll do her. I'm one up on her, you know, like that, mentally, what can I do, and not to do a backpedal. And, you showing your children what they can achieve, what they can do, what they can aspire to, not just Asian or trips or whatever it is, but just in general in life, in their education. How much do you care about education? Are you paying attention to see what they are needing, if they need more support in school? Do they need a school that pushes them, that's enriching? That's so important. you know is your child bored at school? Do they need to go into other classes, maybe, honor roll classes, or AP, advanced placement, things like that, that you do, that will help them along in the future. With that being said, I thank you so much for blessing me with your views, your subscriptions, your likes, your comments. It's I love I love what I do. I love helping moms jumpstart their relationship. And that's actually a program that I'm working on, how to help mothers just to heal themselves from within, heal their limiting beliefs, um, help them to find their confidence and to set their boundaries, to find their self-worth. It's so much. It's to find their strength within themselves, in order to have that wonderful relationship with the daughters. They are diamonds, in the rough. They have to be, I don't say, I don't know how diamonds are, how they come about, but not in that sense where, I'll say after the process, right? You want to shine, you want to buff them, you just want to keep doing that, just keep doing that. And so this is what we have to do with our daughters. You have to keep, working on them so they can shine their brightest. And that all comes from doing that for ourselves as independent mothers. We, we are diamonds ourselves, right? And we have to polish ourselves from the inside out. And so once we have, you know, done that, then we can go ahead and do that to our daughters, because we can't just tell them to do this, do that. And then they're looking at you, they're like, well, you're not doing that. Why should I? So you have to be the example, the shining example. You have to be the diamond that shines so brightly, not just they can see it, but everyone in your environment can see. And so once you have mastered, your brightness, you just gleaming, everyone sees you, then that's where you have the opportunity to do the same thing for your own daughter or daughters and or sons. But that is definitely where my heart is. It's a passion. It's always been, with so many things that I want to do, but I feel that it is something that it's going to be a wonderful program, a wonderful community. I to help other independent mothers, just to regain their confidence within themselves, and also just to mend that relationship with the daughters. It's so vital, it's so key, because it will affect not just now, but later down in life when you're your old age, old age, but in your mature age. um, Wishing and thinking that you should have done that. And that's something that, again, when I talk about having those burdens, having that heavy baggage, that's exactly what I'm talking about. You don't want to have that when you get up there in age, okay? I know I say that a lot. But go ahead, like, share this out, comment below on what your thoughts are, of just, changing the past for a brighter future, what that means to you. Put that in the comments below. And how do you want to see your relationship change with your own daughter? Let me know that. And send me a DM on Instagram. You can DM me at the Unbalanced Pedestal Podcast. You can also send me an email. It's info at the Unbalanced Pedestal Podcast.com. That information would be in this description box. We are going through our own seasons, as I come on here and I share or I teach, I'm still doing the same thing for myself. I'm learning from others as well, and sharing with you guys. Put my twist on it. In whatever form it may come out. but it's a community, and I don't mind being transparent. I don't mind sharing, because at the end of the day, if you learn something from me, that is the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing I can hope for, is to share what I know, because it doesn't do me any justice if I hold it for myself. Like, I'm not being of service to anyone if I'm just hoarding the information. So I don't mind being transparent, because again, I never had that growing up with, someone to say, this is how it was and this is what we should do. And not to like to be a dictator, but just to give that knowledge and information so that I can make my own informed decisions, and not just, go through life and trying to figure it all out. At least have some kind of blueprint. Click the link in the description box. Go ahead and, subscribe to the upcoming waitlist for other independent mothers who are looking to heal themselves so they can jumpstart their relationship with their teen daughters. So, thank you again for watching the Unbalanced Pedestal podcast, and I will see you soon.